Welcome to this next episode of YouTube, and I do want to apologize for the delay of videos for YouTube. First of all, on Easter weekend, I decided to go fishing with my grandson, and so that was why I didn't do a YouTube on Friday. And then we got the call that a litter of pups were born, so we began doing some planning and getting ready for working for wolves, which is why we didn't have the YouTube last Friday. So here it is, another Friday, and we can't believe pups are here because it snowed, and that's a little bit early for us. These pups were actually born 20 days earlier than anticipated, and so I'll get into the pups a little bit later, but I decided it was best to put it in a podcast and avoid running out of time to narrate the video here. So I'll continue to narrate this. And if you want to check out the podcast, it kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of why, what we chose and why we chose it, and a little bit about how we're going to manage the pups in the future. Check out the podcast, and that should be named "The Pups Are Here." So to continue with this video, again, we saw some snow. That kind of surprised us, considering 2 weeks or maybe even 3 weeks ago we had extremely warm temperatures and had to get all the ponds ready because the wolves were overheating. The other thing is, if you recall, Grizzer had dug a huge hole in his enclosure, and we did know that we wanted to give him a better pond. So working for wolves, which started on April 13th, yes, that's the same April 13th when the pups arrived, we had a great work crew here who did a tremendous amount of work, and they helped with the concrete pouring of the pond, and Grizzer now has a concrete pond in his enclosure, and that's also in the front part where the puppies will be utilizing that. So it's deep enough that he can immerse himself. It's not very long, but so not a lot of lap swimming, but that's not Grizzer's style anyways. He likes to just kind of paw and stand chest deep into the water, so better than the Tupperware tub. And so again, we everyone else has a pond. Shadow Malik, we built a nice pond for them a few years ago, and so it was only fair that Grizzer got one as well. So the presence of the pups has definitely stimulated everybody, and as we wolf care staff go into the enclosure, we smell like puppies, and so that has stimulated everyone to investigate, sniff, and even do a little bit of salivating, as the hormones of prolactin are triggered even with just the smell of puppies. Grizzer was licking and drooling, and Shadow was licking and drooling. Malik wasn't. The other concern that we have is that we have a snow during a time when we had leaf out already, so we're hoping that doesn't affect any of the vegetation within the enclosure. So in these clips you'll see the new pond. That's the first day Grizzer got to come back in and inspect it. We hadn't quite filled it yet, so it will be filled to the top of the rocks. We'll put the rocks in there to give him a little traction as he comes in and out of the pond. He's got a shallow end and he's got a deep end, and he certainly seems to be interested in where all the Working for Wolves participants have been. We also did let Oscar in while we were working in there, so that gives him something to smell. So as you've all been waiting for, the video clips of the pups. And this is the first day of them coming to the edge of the fence. Windy day. It was a cool and windy day, and you'll notice the pups are wrapped in fleece blankets. At this age, they don't have thermal regulatory ability. So on the right is the male pup, and again, he's a little bit older at 21 days. And the female pup is on the left. She's the black color phase at about 12 days of age. And you can see Aiden and Denali, again, see that licking that they're doing, that sniffing. Notice their ear postures. These are not the ear postures of aggressive, intent animals pricked forward. These are the ear postures of flat back, submissive, excited wolves. And so you can see them just licking and licking and licking, and that's the hormone stimulus of prolactin. The minute you present those pups, it kicks in and will generally last throughout the summer. One thing that we have to be cautious of now that we have pups that are a little bit older is we will be doing an introduction a little bit sooner than we thought. Because they are going to join Aiden and Denali in the pack, we do not want the pups to be viewed as competitors, to be too big for the introduction. So we like the pups between about 30 and 40 pounds and want to make sure that that prolactin hormone is pretty strong. So we will schedule that introduction a little bit earlier. So if you have applied for the behavioral team, you'll be getting a notice from me relatively soon talking about that change in the schedule. And we have to do what's good for pups. That is our first and foremost concern, is the pups' well-being as they are introduced into the exhibit pack. So this first introduction, it's typical the first night they come on site. If we don't, even though it's a little chilly, if we didn't do this the first night, Aiden and Denali would definitely be stressing to see because they smell them, they know they're on site, and so for them to physically meet them helps Aiden and Denali calm down a little bit. You hear a little bit of guarding behavior. That's Aiden guarding Denali. We do believe Aiden's going to take a lead role here with the pups. But one thing that we noticed over the Working for Wolves weekend, Aiden is definitely more intimidated by strangers. So Denali is not. So as people were working in the pond on Friday, and then the crew came in on Saturday, or Friday night and Saturday, Denali gained some status over Aiden. And that's a very quick transition. All that happened was a little bit of intimidation, so we'll have to watch that with the pup care program. And you're probably wondering, what's Oscar thinking about all this? Well, Oscar did salivate as well, and Oscar is excited to see the pups. Oscar's never left with the pups unattended. He's always with wolf care staff, who are always with the pups. But what we have discovered is that the male pup, who's a little bit older, a little bit more timid, and reacts a little bit more with fear avoidance towards things, has become extremely tractable to Oscar. Now, Oscar's function when we first got him was to entertain Grizzer. Now we're finding his value is broader. He engages in play behavior with the pups, and especially the male pup, and you can see Oscar doing a play bow. And again, wolf care staff are monitoring him to make sure he's not too rough. But you can see here that the male pup is engaged with him. He's got his tail up. He's actually kind of going into a little bit of a play bow himself, and still sniffing. This was the first, basically the first night, and so it is one of those things where we, will continue to see that relationship grow, and we'll continue to see that Oscar will help that pup through any kind of stress and anxiety. So as the weather warmed on Saturday, we brought pups back out, let them do a little bit of cruising. We always carry fleece blankets for them, and when we're doing something like letting them interact in the yard, we have those fleece blankets readily available because it has their scent on them. It's a little bit comforting. You notice the age difference here. The male pup is much more mobile, tail up in the air. We have to be cautious about him not getting too aggressive with that female pup, but you'll notice she did a ride up. She's right in there trying to assert her position and her status over him. So that's inherent wolf behavior, and we will see that grow and develop. And even though they're 10 days difference, and that seems like a lot right now, in a month it will be a minimal difference. And this is so similar to how Grizzer and Nisa were in 2004. They were very bonded. Grizzer interacted with Nisa probably to some extent more than Maya. Nisa was very engaging with Grizzer, and there's so many similarities between those two. So in the wolf lab, basically that's where the puppies are kept because it's warm. They don't quite have their guard hairs yet. They don't have a lot of thermal regulatory ability. So as we get set up here, we've got a lot of things we add. Straw on the floor. This is the first night here. We're just getting things ready. And I want to maybe introduce a little bit about personalities here. We have nicknamed them Peanut and Bolts. And the reason why is here's the male pup trying to escape. This puppy has figured out ways to get out of the enclosure, and when there's a gate open, he bolts. So the nicknames are just short term. The center has a long-held tradition of involving the public in naming our pups, and so wolf care staff give them names to be able to, so we're not calling them male pup and female pup. So we kind of engage the staff with socialization and using a name. The female pup, again, we call her Peanut just because she's so small. So we kind of figured Nuts and Bolts is a good nickname for the short term here. So if you go to our website, you'll see information about the submission of names and entries and the voting that's going to go on to actually name the pups with their official dignified name that they will carry with them through adulthood. But for right now, wolf pups don't come to their names anyways, so we could call them just about anything, and it doesn't necessarily matter. We use a lot of high-pitch calls or tones when we want to get them excited, low pitch when we want to get them to stop chewing on something. So it's more about tone than it is really about about the actual name. So again, here's just more footage of Oscar. You notice he gently is engaging the pup, and Wolf Care staff are right there. They're watching that, and they're making sure. We've been very impressed with Oscar. There are times when we need to intervene, but this is really what we want out of Oscar, is we want those puppies to be not intimidated by an adult canine that rolls them over. And that's important, because when they meet the adult wolves, we want them to submit to the adult wolves and roll over and not run away in fear. So that's really what Oscar's job is. So as far as feeding, puppies are we try to mimic what goes on in the wild. In the wild, puppies would get regurgitated meat from the parents. And no, we're not regurgitating meat. We are using a grinder. We are feeding them 1/3 chicken, 1/3 beef, and 1/3 deer or venison with S-Black formula, which makes a nice gruel similar to what they might be fed. So again, the female is getting more mobile. She's 10 days younger, so she's going to take a little time. And here's where Oscar really kind of has an interesting role. He's watching out, and it seems to me that he is much different with the female pup. Again, she's a little more vulnerable than he is with the male pup. And so when we do see a little bit of dominance, and again, the female pup, she dominates a stuffed wolf puppy, makes it easier for her. But when we do see a little more dominance from that male pup on her, we will intervene. Now, we may not do that as time goes on, because when we intervene and stop him, that gives her confidence, and then eventually she might become supercharged dominant. But for right now, because she is very vulnerable, we're very watchful of that and kind of keep that in mind. So that's it for YouTube this week, and hopefully, again, we'll be posting, we hope, starting next week daily on the pups, which will include little video clips that will be in the wolf vlogs, and then YouTube's once a week. So again, thanks for watching, and thanks for your tolerance in my lack of videos. And just as a reminder, to get more details about the pups, the acquisition, etc., and our management plan, go to our podcast and look for the podcast name, The Pups Are Here.